if George Wendt is in a sequel to a film that I already love, I'm going to jump at watching it, despite the negative ratings it seems to have received. Granddaddy Daycare was released in 2019, directed by Ron Oliver, written by Robbie Fox and David H. Steinberg. And this is, of course, a spin-off or a sequel to Daddy Daycare, Daddy Day Camp. Daddy Daycare is amazing. Timeless, classic, love it. The second film was reasonable. This one had good intentions. I think the idea was good. I think the execution is appalling. So basically, in fact, the description from IMDb sums it up really well. And this says, a family man turns his house into a daycare centre for senior citizens. So to make a really long story short, Frank and his wife Emma take in Emma's father Eduardo to live with them. His mind's maybe going a little bit, he needs some extra support, that's fine. But Frank is a stay-at-home writer, Eduardo is getting under his feet and annoying him, so he decides to invite basically other old people into the house to keep him company, to distract him, but it turns into a kind of old person daycare, and he's there to help administer medicines at the right time, particularly for, you know, those who need it, offloading pressure on carers and loved ones caring for their elderly relatives. It's a really interesting concept, completely flips Daddy Daycare on its head with who they're looking after in daycare, and there are ways that worked. The residents of this daycare are quite a mixed bag of personalities. Barry Bostwick plays Dynamite Dan North, who is a really interesting character. George Wendt is Big Lou. I love George Wendt in this. Like, that for me was a bit of a saving grace. I enjoyed his performance. He wasn't in it as much as I would have liked, but he was in it a reasonable amount that I can feel like this is a George Wendt film. So that's quite interesting, but once the novelty effect wears off, I feel like it's all over the place. First of all, the film is an hour and a half, and I feel like it took a good 40 minutes to get anywhere. There was too much setting up, and there's a subplot as well involving Frank's son, and his son Jordan, played by Anthony Gonzalez, and you know, I liked his acting, I liked his character, I thought there was a lot of potential there, but the two narratives felt completely separate for the most part, and it was like we were just watching two different stories that just happened to be connected because they were from the same family, and I feel like that was really, really badly done and not very well written into the narrative at all. Interesting enough, but they weren't tied together. They needed to work that better into the story. The other thing is that it becomes too serious. Now, this is a comedy, and every good comedy has its serious moments. It has aspects that, you know, will make it a bit more meaningful. So it's not just a frivolous bit of fun, it actually has a more important message. And that's something that I feel they tried to do with Eduardo, and moments where his mental health is declining and he's not as sharp as he used to be and he gets confused. And obviously the message here is, yes, these senior citizens all have quirky personalities and they're interesting, but actually they do need your care and you need to step up and look after people who have looked after you. But it's too serious. It goes too dark and too depressing, and it just makes it just morbid and grim, and they just haven't got that balance right of comedy and seriousness at all. It goes from being not funny, but I guess light-hearted and entertaining enough, to just being depressing, and it's just a roller coaster and not in a good way. So would I recommend this? Honestly, I don't know. I feel like if you love Daddy Daycare and you think this sounds interesting, give it a watch and make up your own mind. But if you don't care for the other Daddy Daycare films and you don't think this sounds that interesting, I'm not going to try and persuade you to watch it. If you love George Wendt, watch it. You know, I'm glad I watched it for him, but I'm also confident in the knowledge that I will never watch this again. It's not the worst film I've ever seen, but there is a lot wrong with it, a lot of specific things that I think they could have done better. It's not just a general feeling of being not good. It's not very well written, it's not very well executed, the tone is not right. It had good intentions, I don't think it delivered them.